Welcome to the new edition of Soccer Down Here's coverage of the USL Championship. I'm John Nelson. Time to take a peek at what happened midweek, take a look at the standings, and catch you up on our guest of the week, who is going to be one of the voices of one of the teams that is very hot so far in the western half of the country. It is Duke Keith, the play-by-play voice of El Paso Locomotive, the only undefeated side so far in the USL Championship as we talk here in 2021. So let's take a look at what happened last night as we're talking here on Thursday. A couple of matches in the midweek, and we can start our conversation off with Nico Brett. Nico Brett scoring yet another goal, his seventh on the year, and it gives Birmingham Legion all that they needed for the win, 1-0 at FIU Soccer Stadium against the Miami FC. Charleston Battery had a bit of a rough time at the Sportsplex at Matthews, going up against Charlotte Independence. Goals by Kelly, Palomino, and Sabella give Charlotte the 3-0 win there. The Independents keep on with their early season well-done efforts. OKC Energy at Taft Stadium get their first win at Taft in a very long time. 1-0 win over Sporting Kansas City. The goal by Bijev at 45+1 is what they needed at the break. They held on. Oklahoma City Energy gets one of their best results of the season so far at home at Taft. Also out west, Tacoma Defiance and Real Monarchs fight to a 1-1 draw, as do LA Galaxy 2 and Orange County SC at Dignity Health Sports Park. So Los Dos and Orange County, they end up with a 1-1 draw as well. Now, getting into the weekend, it's time to catch up with our guest for the week. And when you look at the standings out west, really when you look at the standings all the way through the USL Championship, and you look in that middle column that has an L attached to it, there's only one team that still has a 0 there. It is El Paso Locomotive at 4-0-3, 15 points, second in the Mountain Division behind Rio Grande Valley FC. The RGV FC Toros at 17 points. El Paso 2 matches in hand and 2 points behind. Time to catch up with their play-by-play voice, Duke Keith. And the first question I asked him is that if I had told you through 7 matches, you'd still have that 0 there in the loss column, what would you have said?
I would say that would be very, very unlikely. I mean, the USL Championship, say what you will, there's probably a pretty good amount of parity. And obviously, Locomotive has, had its issues at the start of the season, especially in the past. So I would have figured with the system that Mark Lowry, the head coach and technical director, likes to implement, that it takes some getting used to. And certainly in that first match, that was the case. And it took, the better part of 90 minutes, actually 90 plus minutes, for Locomotive to find their way back into it and earn a point against New Mexico United. But they've been rocking and rolling ever since. Obviously, there are some close calls. Obviously, there are some, lucky bounces, I guess you could say, and lucky clearances. But I think all in all, it's been an incredible start, and very surprising that they have started undefeated.
And I want to get into the rivalries and the footprint in just a little bit, but let's talk about what's been going on specifically defensively, where right now you're at a goal difference of +5 after 7 matches, but there aren't a whole lot of balls being shot that are going into the back of the net so far in your first 7 matches.
Yeah, I think the offense is the problematic part. Defense has always been the calling card of Mark Lowry's teams. It has earned them 2 consecutive finals berths, Western Conference finals berths. And I mean, last year, you only have to look at what happened last year in the playoff race, taking it to penalties in all 3 playoff matches they played, including the Phoenix Rising, where they eventually lost in penalties. But that's part of the 19-game unbeaten string, I guess. Officially, it's a tie. You just have to decide who's going to go on to the Western Conference, who's going to go on to the championship. But 2 consecutive years right out of the gate, very impressive. The defense has been the calling card, and it starts in the back with Logan Ketterer, who I think is undervalued as a keeper because he doesn't have a lot of work to do most matches. But let's be frank about that. He doesn't face a lot of shots, but when the shots come, he's been doing an outstanding job. And the back line just, even though it's been a bit of a patchwork from here and there, Mishak Jerome has been out on international duty. The first season he got injured. Obviously, they lost Chiro and Toko, their team captain and kind of talisman, going into this season. So Yuma, he's a 6, has been playing in the back line along with Mishak Jerome, and Matt Boehner's come in and filled in. They have done an outstanding job, even though they've kind of been, a little hit and miss in terms of who's going to be back there.
When it comes to the midfield and the guys that you want to put the ball in the back of the net, I know that you mentioned that it's the bit of the problematic work in progress, but what has it been like, for you up there in the booth to see how things are growing into the season, I guess is the best way to phrase it, because we all know that there is turnover from year to year, and it takes a little while for folks to sit there and become fully integrated into what a coach, into what Mark Lowry, in your case, wants to do in El Paso. Where is the growth curve right now with the offense, and what's the progression been like from that first match?
I think the progression has been there, and I think you only need to look at their performance on the road. And I think that it was a very good free kick taken by Real Monarchs that earned them the goal. Otherwise, they were headed to a 5th clean sheet on the season, and 2-0 on the road up until the almost stoppage time, like the 88th or 89th minute when they scored the goal, very late. I think that you're seeing the offense start to come together. It's also wonderful that Aaron Gomez, who's, I guess if there's a talisman for forwards, he's it. They want him to score. He's such a good guy and is so well liked by the team. They want him to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. And his effort in the opening minutes of that Real Monarchs game, he just wanted it more than a defender. And you could see it. The effort was there. He earned his goal, even though it was set up by a couple of very good passes. But I think the guy to keep an eye on, the one that we are absolutely thrilled to see, is the teenager, Diego Luna, just 17 years old. He was the one responsible. It was his, he won't be credited on the score sheet. And he's done this. As a matter of fact, it was the New Mexico United goal. He came in late, subbed in late, and helped earn that point with essentially the second assist. You'll see it in hockey. You won't see it in
hockey
soccer.
Assist. You know it.
Exactly. But he's the guy who makes the pass to the guy who makes the pass. And for him to be involved at that young age, I think that has been the real fun thing to watch for this Locomotive team, especially over the last few games where he's gotten considerably more minutes and has started a couple of games. Even in place of Dylan Maris, who was ill, had made the trip to Real to Sandy, Utah, but was not able to be on the bench because of I guess he had a stomach bug. But Diego Luna gets the start, and they didn't miss a beat. Offensively, it is starting to come together, and you can see it. It's just that final ball, whatever it is. And 2 goals on the road, pretty impressive. Diego Luna did get the assist on Maka King's goal at Real.
Duke Keith, play-by-play voice of El Paso Locomotive, hanging out with us here as SDH looks at the USL Championship. Would you, and I'm going to put you in Mark Lowry's jumpsuit here for a second.
Okay.
Do you want to be playing this weekend, or do you want the weekend off? Because I think it's 12 days between matches.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep the momentum going with what you've been doing so far, or do you want this time off to regroup?
I think time off is always good for older legs, and let's be honest, Locomotive does have a few of those. Yuma on the back line is 35, Richie Ryan is 36. I think that always helps in terms of recovery, but I think, for momentum's sake, if that's what you're talking about, I think Mark Lowry would rather be on the pitch this weekend. Absolutely, 100%. I think he'd rather be playing. It's just been, I know that these holes were created for the U.S. Open Cup, which is, when we talk about problematic, we don't even know if it's going to be played. I would assume not at this point in the season, but those holes were created in the schedule for them to participate in Open Cup matches. So I guess, in one measure, you're thankful for the time off, because otherwise you'd be playing another game in that space, but you really would like to keep the momentum, especially after a pretty solid road win.
For those that don't know the soccer footprint and the community that is there in El Paso and in West Texas and in Eastern New Mexico, which lends itself to the rivalry against New Mexico United, break it down for our listeners who aren't familiar with the footprint and how Locomotive have been embraced there in El Paso in the championship.
Well, I think that there is a very, first of all, you start with a very knowledgeable base of fans when it comes to soccer. There were a lot of first and second generation Americans who grew up with it. You walk in the mall and you see as many Dallas Cowboys jerseys as there are, and that's the team here in El Paso. But as many Dallas Cowboys jerseys as there are, you'll see Chivas de Guadalajara, Santos Laguna. You'll see all of these from south of the border just walking through a grocery store, and they are some very, very passionate soccer fans. So they like what they see. Honestly, I'm impressed. And I know part of it is that everybody's happy that COVID is done and you can go to there's 100% capacity at Southwest University Park. So the fans have been showing up a lot more than I remember. The last home match was a midweek against Colorado Springs Switchbacks. And it was an impressive turnout for a Wednesday evening. So they're really starting to make those inroads in the soccer community. I think that was kind of that missing link to kind of connect to those very knowledgeable fans who know and appreciate what they're watching. And the fact that they win, well, that helps too. Insofar as the footprint here in the Southwest, it's interesting because, a lot of this develops from college rivalries. University of New Mexico versus UTEP in the old Western Athletic Conference days was one of the most heated rivalries when you talked about a guy like Don Haskins, the great basketball coach for many, many years. And Norm Ellenberger from back in the day at UNM. Those guys had a rivalry. The arenas were always packed, 13,000 fans every game in El Paso, 18,000 at the Pit in Albuquerque. And it was a huge rivalry. So when you talk about New Mexico United, it kind of stems from that. And this is two teams. It's funny because El Paso you'd think would look east to Texas. No, we look north. And I think that, one of the kind of an aside for UTEP anyway, one of the things that's really kind of hurt them is the fact that they can't connect with those rivals they used to have in the old Western Athletic Conference, who've now become part of the Mountain West. And I think that this is a good fill-in. Anytime you get a rivalry against Albuquerque, this is a wonderful thing because that's the next closest big city to us, 4 hours away. You talk about a derby, you're thinking, maybe you travel on a bus by an hour or so. No, this is a 4-hour trip, about 240 miles due north.
What's a match day like for this derby, knowing that there are 240 miles separating the two? I imagine that the 4-lane roads and the 6-lane roads are pretty packed both ways when it comes to this particular matchup.
Both teams travel well, and they've been doing. Obviously, New Mexico United is off to a rip-roaring start. They've in their 3 seasons. And it's so wonderful for them to have fans back at the match this year. I know New Mexico was under a completely different COVID protocol than Texas was. So they didn't have a home game last year up until the very, very end. And actually, they didn't have a home game at all. They had one that they called a home game up in Colorado Springs, but to be without fans for a whole year and to have the start they did in 2019 and drawing, 13 and 14,000 fans to a match was pretty incredible. So they travel well to El Paso. Locomotive fans do travel well up to Albuquerque. You talk about derby matches and maybe traveling 30 minutes or an hour to your rival. And I know that that's especially the case the further east in this country you go. We don't mind those drives because that's, if you're going to travel to go do something, well, you're going west, 6 hours to Phoenix, 5 hours to Tucson, 8 to 9 hours to San Diego, 4 hours north to Albuquerque, 10 hours east to Dallas in our own home state, 10 hours east to Houston. Anywhere you want to go, you're on the road for at least 3 to 4 hours. So, we're kind of used to it. And the fans do travel very, very passionate, I think, over the 3 years that these two teams have been a part of this USL Championship.
When you look at the Mountain Division, I mean, right now, the way things have started, 1 to 6 are separated by basically 2 wins. So if you get on a hot streak, you could pretty much rocket from below the playoff bar to above it. I mean, RGV 2 points ahead of you right now, 17-15. Then New Mexico United a point below you. Then you've got that gaggle at 11 points separated by matches played. And then you'll get into goal difference when everybody gets all dialed up with Colorado Springs, Austin, and San Antonio. Right now, I mean, Mountain Division looks like it's going to be going to the bitter end when it comes to really 1 through 6 fighting for 4 spots.
Absolutely. And it is an absolute logjam. It's amazing to think, I think everybody kind of thought, especially with that Colorado Springs Switchbacks game, the last home match that Locomotive played, that it was going to be something that Locomotive was going to be able to deal with pretty easily, especially the way they dominated the Indy 11. And I know Indy 11 there were extenuating circumstances there. A flight apparently didn't get into El Paso until about midnight, I think, the day of the match. So obviously, you still have to travel to your hotel and check in. It was just kind of not a fun road trip for them at all. And then, of course, there was the game, which was definitely not fun for them. But you talk about the switchbacks, and I think folks have thought, well, maybe it's going to be the same kind of switchbacks team that has been around the last two seasons. It was not. It was a tough match. And switchbacks, I mean, they turn around and they win at Austin. Was that 3-2? Just this last week? It has been an absolute. It is a real logjam. Only Real Monarchs, I think, has been disappointing. But yeah, you're talking about switchbacks, Bold, and San Antonio FC, all at 11 points. They're right there. Switchbacks, by virtue of the fact, I guess, their goal differential has them above the playoff line right now. But it is an absolute logjam, and I think it's going to be very hotly contested all the way to the end. Just because the teams are pretty even. And I know Rio Grande Valley, RGV up at the very top, they've played 2 more matches than Locomotive has. And games in hand, I think, is going to come into effect to kind of determine things, especially as we kind of get into the stretch of this, the dog days of summer, so to speak. But yeah, this division top to bottom is rugged, and the travel is not easy because you're talking about RGV, which is in Edinburgh, Texas. That's, geez, I don't even know.
Let's pack a lunch and a dinner, isn't it?
No lie. Oh yeah, that's an all day sucker, man. That's about a 12-hour trip from Edinburgh up to El Paso even. And then you have to go to Colorado Springs. Obviously, I mean, it's all by air, but this is a spread out division and it is rough. It's tough to earn points here, which is why I'm that much more impressed by Locomotive's 2-0 win or 2-1 win, even though it was against the team at the bottom of the division in Real Monarchs.
One more question for you, and thanks for hanging out with us here as we break down the
Sure.
USL Championship. If someone in our footprint is diving into ESPN Plus and they're catching a Locomotive match for the first time, who would you have that person gravitate toward just to kind of spot shadow a little bit to focus on how things are growing under Mark Lowry? Is it the 17-year-old? Is it Ketterer? Who would you like to see, folks, the first-time watchers, who would you like to see them focus on to see what life is like with El Paso this season?
It's funny, I think that you think of the attacking players, obviously, if people are going to gravitate toward that, and the camera, like play-by-play guys, follow the ball. So Diego Luna would be a good one to watch. I mean, that's kind of what we do. I would think also Lucho Solignac, number 16. He's a veteran and obviously had a great season for San Antonio. He's been in Major League Soccer as well. Luis Solignac, the Argentine, he plays the number 9 role and plays it very well. And there is so much of the offense that runs through him, whether he is on the ball or just his runs off the ball. He's a great one to watch in terms of attack, and he's going to get his goals. Last season, he averaged a goal every other match. Well, he's way, way overdue because he's got just the one this season, and he is looking for more. He's a good one to watch up front. I think in the back, Richie Ryan, number 6, the Irishman, the veteran, 36 years old, but you watch him pass, and he knows absolutely what he wants to do. He's never on the ball for more than a second or two, unless he's just got a dead solid run up the middle. But even then, he's looking to pass. He's looking to facilitate. He's always looking for what's next. And here's a guy who's thinking 3 or 4 plays ahead. It's like the old adage about, what was it, Barcelona and Iniesta, right? If you watch the game, you don't necessarily see Iniesta, but if you see Iniesta, you watch the whole game. You see the whole game. And Richie Ryan is definitely that. You see where Locomotive is going to go. On the back line, Mishak Jerome, excellent passer. He's a guy who can split your defense with a long ball over the top that you're like, how did he spot that? He's that guy. So from the back line, those are the ones to watch. Richie Ryan from the 6th role and Mishak Jerome at center back. But definitely up front, keep your eye on Luis Solignac.
And we definitely have seen those guys on this side of the Mississippi. All right, time for the blatant promo.
Okay.
Those that want to keep an eye on everything that you are talking about when it comes to El Paso, live, tape, or otherwise, how do they do it?
ESPN Plus, always the best way. That is an amazing value for it. But locomotivefc.com, aplocomotivefc.com is the website. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm easy to follow at Duke Keith, DUKEKEITH. And I've got it all there. I've started this thing with Locomotive FC where we kind of take a look at the social media aspect of it called Match Week Kickoff. So that'll be happening on Monday. You pay attention to the Locomotive socials for that, EP Locomotive FC on Facebook, on Instagram and Twitter, El Paso Locomotive FC on Facebook, and follow along. We've got a fun season going so far. We'll see how far it takes us, but Locomotive is off to, I guess you'd have to say, a dream start, undefeated through this number of matches, even though they've had some draws and things, the scoring is not quite there yet. If they're ever able to thread that needle and put that last pass, that last ball together, this team could really be something to watch.
Duke, thank you for pulling back the curtain a little bit on El Paso, on Locomotive, on the Mountain Division, Choice D, all the above. Thanks for being a part of SDH's coverage of the USL Championship. We'll be keeping an eye, my friend.
Thank you very much, John. And I appreciate Atlanta. I appreciate soccer down here doing this because Atlanta United kind of has a close place to my heart. If you remember the very first video, the opening videos at Bobby Dobbs Stadium, that was my voice. I did the voiceover for the intro video. I did the voiceover for the King, I don't remember. It was the King jersey. I don't remember the name of it, but it was just before the pandemic hit, and they had their release party for the big jersey reveal. I did the voiceover for that. So my shout out to Matt and all the gang at Atlanta United. They do such a great job, and I keep my tabs on Atlanta United. Absolutely.
Thanks to Duke Keith for hanging out with us as we take a look and take a tour around at USL Championship. Let's take a look at the standings as we head into the weekend, and we'll get into the matchups as well. Atlantic Division, Tampa at 6-2 through their first 8 matches at 18 points. They've lost 2 of their last 3, though. Their margin is only 3 points ahead of Charlotte Independence, who are 5-3 on the year. Pittsburgh has won 2 in a row. They're unbeaten in their last 3. They're at 14 points. Hartford Athletic, after a hot start, they are now 4-1-1 at 13 points, of all of them above the playoff bar in the Atlantic Division. The Miami FC, they've lost 3 of their last 4. They're at 10 points. Charleston Battery, after winning 2, we talked about the loss to Charlotte, to put them at 2-2 after 6 matches. Remember, they've had 2 matches postponed because of weather at Patriots Point that they're going to have to make up at some point. They're ahead of Red Bulls 2 on goal difference. Red Bulls 2 snapped out of their 3-game losing streak last time out. They're in 7th at 8 points. Loudoun United at 1-6. They've lost 4 in a row, and they are at 3 points heading into the weekend. Central Division, Birmingham, they won 4 of their last 5. They, through 10 matches, have 19 points. Lou City, they've won 3 in a row. They've caught fire recently. They're at 16 points, 2 matches in hand. Indy 11, after the dismissal of Martin Rennie, after catching up with Greg Rakestraw on soccer down here right now, Indy 11, they get a win on the board. They're at 13 points at 4-4-1. FC Tulsa, after their hot start, they're back to 4-4, and they're at 12 points ahead of Atlanta United 2, who is 3-3-3, having played 1 more match at 12 points. OKC Energy, with their 2nd win of the year, they've won 2 in a row. After their coaching change, they're at 10 points. Memphis 901, with their late start of the season, 2-3-2 at 8 points. Sporting Kansas City 2. They have lost 3 in a row, and they are at 7 points through 11 matches played. Out west, RGV at 17 points. El Paso at 15. New Mexico United at 14. Colorado Springs, they are unbeaten in their last 4. They're ahead of Austin and San Antonio in goal difference and less games played. So Colorado Springs right now at 11 points, Austin at 11, and San Antonio FC at 11. Real Monarchs have lost 2 of their last 3. They are last after 9 matches in the Mountain Division at 6 points. In the Pacific, it is Phoenix, 5-2-1, 8 matches played at 16 points. They have won 3 of their last 5. They're unbeaten in 4 of their last 5. However, they did lose last time out. Orange County SC, after their 1-1 draw in the midweek, 4-2-2, they're at 14 points. They are unbeaten in their last 5. Los Dos, 10 matches, 12 points, although they have lost 3 of their last 5. San Diego Loyal caught fire recently, unbeaten in their last 5, storming up the table in the Pacific. They're at 11 points. Tacoma, lost 3 of their last 4. They're at 8. Sacramento Republic has lost 4 of their last 5. They're at 7. Las Vegas Lights, an up and down season after a slow start at 2-5-1. They're at 7 points. And Oakland Roots at 1-2-1. They have only played 4 matches this year. So let's take a peek at the schedule this weekend, give you an idea as to what's going on. There are a handful of matches on Friday night, the 25th. Red Bulls 2 go to Highmark to take on Pittsburgh at 7 o'clock. 8:30, RGV hosts FC Tulsa at Widener Field, downtown Colorado Springs. The Switchbacks hosting New Mexico United at 9 o'clock. At Cashman at 10:30, San Diego Loyal visits Las Vegas Lights and their head coach, Steve Cherundolo. Saturday, big list of matches here. Run through them real quick. Patriots Point, 7 o'clock. Loudoun United in Charleston. Dillon Stadium, 7 o'clock. Tampa Bay visiting Hartford. Lynn Family, 7:30. Indy 11 takes on Lou City. FIU Soccer Stadium, 7:30. Charlotte takes on the Miami FC. 8:30, AutoZone Park. Sporting Kansas City 2 and Memphis 901. 10 o'clock at Zions Bank. Real Monarchs host San Antonio FC. 10:30 at Las Positas College Turf Field. It is the Oakland Roots taking on Austin Bold. Hard Health Park at 11. Sacramento Republic hosting Phoenix Rising. Sunday afternoon at 4:30 at Cheney Stadium. Tacoma Defiance take on LA Galaxy 2. Fifth Third Sunday night at 7:30. OKC Energy on the road taking on Atlanta United 2. Before we catch up again on the 29th on Tuesday, San Diego Loyal hosting Oakland Roots at USD and Torero Stadium. Other news and notes that have gone on in and around the USL itself. Indy 11 have acquired Eric Dick, the keeper, on loan from Columbus Crew SC. Spent time on loan with Phoenix Rising in the 2020 season. So the Butler University standout heads home to Indy to be a part of Indy 11's roster. Take a look at the power rankings real quick and give you an idea as to how things are at week 9. El Paso still at number 1 at 4-0-3. Lou City up 5 spots to number 2. And this is, you can find at uslchampionship.com. New Mexico United up 3 to number 3. Phoenix, after their loss, they dropped to number 4. Pittsburgh up 7 spots to number 5. Tampa down 4 spots to 6. Hartford up 3 to number 7. RGV down 4 to number 8. Orange County up 2 to 9. Birmingham Legion down 5 at number 10. Some other teams of note: Charlotte is at number 12. FC Tulsa up 1 to 14. Charleston up 7 to 16 after beating Miami, who's now down to 17. Atlanta United 2 down 6 spots to 19. Indy 11 at 20. Memphis 901 at 23. Sporting Kansas City 2 at 26. Red Bulls 2 at 28. OKC Energy up 1 to 29. Loudoun United down 2 spots to your spot at 31st. Reminder that you can catch all of the action of the USL Championship on ESPN Plus. Check your local providers about how you can subscribe if you do not, and follow your favorite team's Twitter accounts as well, so you can keep up to date as to when broadcast information is and when the games are a part of your week. Thanks once again to Duke Keith, the play-by-play voice of El Paso Locomotive, to give us a look at the top-ranked team in the power rankings for the USL Championship. Enjoy the games this weekend, Atlanta United fans. Remember, once again, 7:30 Sunday night, big match for Atlanta United 2 as OKC Energy comes to town, as the hot and heavy action in the division continues once again. Thanks for hanging out with us for Soccer Down Here's coverage of the USL Championship. For everybody here at SDH, play it safe, everybody. Enjoy the games.